Hi, everyone. This is Folkwise's Authors Roundtable with contributors to Whispers in the Echo Chamber, and I have one of the editors here, Dr. Andrea Kitta. Hi, Andrea. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
Oh, we're happy to have you. We really are. A fan favorite, returning champion, Andrea Kitta. Um, Andrea, we read your introduction that you wrote with Dr. Jesse Fivecoate, Conspiracy
Mhm.
Theory, a Folkloristic Introduction. Uh, Excellent job. Congrats on the book. Excellent job with this intro, setting up the book very well. We got a few questions for you if you're ready.
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right. So, our first question, and this kind of seems like a through line of the whole book, but it came up specifically, I think, articulated very well in your chapter. How is studying conspiracy theory a form of social justice?
Oh, that's a great question. I love that question. Yeah, I do think it's a form of social justice. If I could talk tonight, um, yeah, it is. I think pointing these things out and calling them out is social justice. And I also think that it's really important for us to study white men the way that we study every other culture. So I think that's also a really big part of this as well. So yeah, I feel pretty strongly about both of those things. I really want us to get out of that area of this idea of the folklorist as studying the exotic other and to turn its lens back on itself and say like, okay, well, what about us? Like, what about all of our weird shit? Like, let's talk about that stuff. And to and to really like dive into that and really think about what have we done in the past and what are we doing right now. I think that's really important. But yeah, I also think of this as a form of social justice because this is such important stuff that we're doing. I think it really matters. I also I very much recognize that all of our authors put themselves on the line here. They're opening themselves up to not just like the usual criticism you get for writing a book or something like that, but also, they've put, I don't want to say they've put targets on themselves. It's not quite that dramatic, but they've opened themselves up for that kind of criticism, right? They've opened themselves up for those things, especially in today's current environment and current climate. So I think that's also really important, especially for me as someone who looks like this, to get up there and say, "Hey, listen, I'm willing to stand up for this stuff. I'm willing to stand up for what what we're looking at, the concept of truth, the concept of belief, and when those things do sometimes really matter." So, and that's hard to say as a folklorist. I'm getting more and more comfortable with it, especially after COVID. But it is, I think, it is something we do have to think about. How we study belief and how we study these things in these contexts, and why it is important to know that there is a difference between truth and what is belief.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and like you mentioned, and you said that in the chapter as well about like
Mhm.
this could be a bit of like a target on your back because the people you're studying could like react very have a very big reaction, which is something I relate to both as a white guy and also like like with some of the field work I've done. I'm thinking like
Mhm.
specifically around like eating contests. A lot of people like just want you to understand it on their terms, or they will
Yeah.
get like they'll get very like upset with like an edict understanding. You know what I mean?
Yeah, very much so. And I mean, I've kind of always had like a little bit of a target because the anti-vaccination movement is um they're adamant and they are not always kind. So I have gotten death threats before. So I'm like, hey, what's some more death threats? Like it's fine. But some people are putting themselves in an even much more uncomfortable position. We have people that even said, I don't want to talk about this publicly right now because it might mean my job or
Mm.
it might affect my tenure or it might affect other aspects of their lives. So
Hmm.
I really appreciate that they still contributed to this book and they still were a part of this book, because it's a bit of a risk.
Yeah, I'm glad you're addressing that underrated thing we don't often talk about, like
Yeah.
with typing. You know what I mean? It's higher stakes than you might believe.
Yeah.
So this is kind of a fun question, but I wanted to bring this up because this is literally a question we posed on our social media in like 2021. Um, and that is, can you speak to the sort of like the folk iconicity of red yarn as the symbol of conspiracy theory?
Yeah, that was one of the things when we were discussing the cover and they asked us what we like to give them ideas. Jesse and I were both like, we want something sort of simple but kind of iconic looking and something that really speaks to this particular moment. And one of the things that we suggested was red yarn. And so we were really happy to see how the cover turned out with the big ball of red yarn on it. Because it's just that little bit of an indication towards what we think of as the conspiracy theory board and doing those linkages. And I don't know exactly how that got started. I mean, we know that there's definitely the Charlie Day meme from It's Always Sunny that got really kind of used a lot and popularized as a symbol of conspiracy theory. And that has the classic red yarn, but it was long before that. So I'm starting to think like, and I don't have evidence for this in this particular moment talking about it, but like it's got to go back to things like X Files and even probably, prior to that.
Mhm.
So yeah, so my little X-Files loving ass when I was in college, I actually used to get ready to go out to parties while watching the X-Files.
Oh,
Like, I know, how
that's on
cute is
brand.
that? Cute, right? Like talk
Yeah.
about, like yeah, 1995 Andrea was like there doing her makeup and like had X-Files on in the background. So like seems very, very on message. But yeah, I mean, that's such an influential part of the pop culture of conspiracy theory that I would not be surprised to find it there. And I actually also, while I was in college, I saw the cigarette smoking guy. He came to our campus and
Mm.
I went to see him speak, and he was fantastic. He was well versed in conspiracy theory. And I
Mm.
remember sitting there thinking that at the time is that the actor had done all this research and was really impressed by it. So, yeah, so that really, like, stuck out. So these are, like, the early signs that I was gonna write this at some point. So
Mhm.
In my non-exhaustive research, I think the oldest red yarn board I can find is like the original Alec Guinness Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But I guess the follow-up
Nice.
question is, was it your idea or Jesse's idea to
Mhm.
include, to be presumably the first like academic folklore text to include the Pepe Sylvia meme? Like whose idea
It
was that? Because that's when I read through it, I'm like, hold on.
Yeah, it was both of us. Actually, I'm pretty sure it was both of us that wanted to use that one because we were talking about, like, if we had a meme to show it, that would be the one. So I had that one, and I also had the one it was a still from the movie Signs where they're all wearing
Mm,
tinfoil hats.
yep.
So that was, like, my other, like, go-to, for it as sort of iconic of what we think of conspiracy theorists as looking like, when that's of course, that's part of our book is that's not what they look like, right? They're
Hmm.
not all people living in their mom's basement and putting up these big red pieces of yarn up and, that they're we all engage in this to some extent.
Yeah. Caitlin, do you have the last one?
I do have this last one, Andrea.
Yes.
I need you to defend conspiracy theory
Mhm.
as both a part of normal cognition, also
Okay.
healthy.
Okay. Yeah. Um, yeah, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it because I do
Look out,
actually
she's gonna
believe
do
this.
it.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so excited. So I think of conspiracy theory as a spectrum, right? We're all somewhere on that spectrum, right? So
Mhm.
we're all somewhere between I think that aliens built lizard people built the Denver airport, all the way down to I think the example I always use in class is that the parking police on campus are after me personally.
Mm.
Mhm.
Like, and I think we all can like anybody that's ever parked on a university campus feels that way. Or like, like these low level conspiracies. I think we all believe in it, but it's like it's low level stuff. And we also have to recognize that there are times in our lives when people have conspired against us. And sometimes those conspiracies are they're planning us a surprise party, right? Like it's nothing like bad or anything like that. But I mean, it also goes up to like, infidelity, right? That's a conspiracy if you think about it.
Mm.
So being a little bit suspicious is actually in our best nature, right? If we walked around not being suspicious and just accepting everything that happened to us, we'd be naive. So having that that little bit of suspicion is I think healthy because it keeps us safe. It keeps us, alive. It keeps us, I mean, we all needed a little bit of suspiciousness amongst our friends during COVID, right? We
Mhm.
need to be like, I don't know if you've actually not been seeing other people. I don't know how I feel about that, right? That
Mhm.
kept us safe. So I think a little bit is healthy. It's just when you go to that other sort of extreme where you start to think that there is this giant conspiracy. And like one of the things I always tell my students as well is I can always say that like I know when a conspiracy theorist has like never been a part of a large organization is when they think that large organizations can get together and plan anything.
Yes.
I have been in a university for a while now, and I cannot get my department to agree on something, or even a part of my department to agree on something, much less like, oh yes, we're definitely going to take over. Like if I like walked in and be like, all right, guys, we're taking over sociology, like someone would fight me on it, right? Like even if they agreed with me 100%, they would fight me on it just to be contrary, right? So I always think of that, like, these are people I feel like that you're like, you've never been a part of a large organization, have you? You've never gone to a meeting, have you? Where there's like a large group of people, much less worked at a large company where something like a university where, God, trying to get anything done or passed takes forever to actually for it to happen. So yeah, I think there's a little bit of knowledge is a good thing, and like too much is also a good thing sometimes, but too little is sometimes bad for us. So yeah. So how's that for a defense? Wait, I should pick up my other beverage. How's that for a defense?
It's fantastic. It's
Excellent.
great. It's
Yeah,
everything
thank
I
you.
wanted.
Uh, we got a little time. We got a little time for bonus questions, and of course, if you're in chat and you have a question for Andrea or any one of our guests, post it in chat. We'll read it out loud. People can see. We got a little bit of a bonus question. So a phrase that stuck out to me from your introduction, you talked about the protean nature of conspiracy theories. That
Mhm,
being said, they're like so easily changeable,
mhm.
and so like and adaptable as they go on. And I guess a question I have for you in this or in your research in general, did your research ever had to change halfway through as the legend changed?
Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely. I've had to change a lot of things halfway through. As legends changed, but also as I realized a little bit more about them, that there was something else I was missing. And
Mm.
that always happens during the process. And this is part of, even though like as an introvert, I find field work scary to this day. I'm like, I just like, oh God, talking to people. Um, like it is still scary to this day. But like that's the best part about field work is that you go in with like one question and then you find out, oh my God, I was completely wrong, or I had no idea what I was talking about, or there's this whole
Mhm.
other more interesting thing over here that I didn't even know about. It's the same thing with when you start to like study a legend or a conspiracy theory that you'll see that change happen. And you'll have to be like, oh, okay, no, okay, I've got to shift. And I think like the biggest one for me in my career was that I made this very bold claim that if people had only seen diseases, they would get vaccinated for them. And boy, was I wrong. Wow, was that naive, right? Talk about someone who should have been a little bit more of a conspiracy theorist. Um, I really thought that, like, I was just like, that's part of the problem, right? We don't see these childhood illnesses anymore, and that's our problem. And no, it turned out that was not it. Although sometimes it was. There were a lot of people during COVID that when they saw somebody that actually had COVID, or when they got sick, or when they, had a family member get really sick, they did go out and get vaccinated. So it did happen sometimes, but not to everybody, but like not in the way that I had envisioned that it would happen. So yeah, boy was I wrong.
Yeah, I'm sure when you said that, you weren't thinking like see the disease means like once you're on a ventilator, you'll get it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah, no, I thought like, oh, okay, well we can come together. Like people come together in a crisis. Not for long. That's the part I didn't think about. It was the length of time too,
Ah,
right? People
Mhm.
come together in a crisis right away, really well. It's that sustained coming together in a crisis that's way too hard for people.
yep. A vulgar art in chat. Hey,
Oh,
to
wow.
add to that says it's talking about the huge uptick in measles vaccines in Texas right now, which
Yes.
I
Yeah.
feel
Yes,
like
and
you're.
which some of them are.
It felt appropriate to say because it was illustrating your point, but you're probably tired of hearing about MMR right now.
I'm
Yeah.
fine with it. It's cool. I'm used to it. Also, though, I have a question for Vulgar Art is why didn't he respond to my email when I asked him if he wanted to be on this?
Because he loves being in chat so much.
Because he's sick of us.
Because he.
I think
Sometimes you have to see Folkwise to get vaccinated from it.
I'm just gonna say I think Ian's afraid to be on screen with me.
Oh,
I
Hasn't
think-
happened yet.
Oh,
Ooh.
oh yeah. Yeah, he knows I'm more charming than he is. Which is
Dang.
not true. Which is so not true, but yeah.
Dang. Well, he's currently in an imbroglio right now. I think that's why he couldn't get on. But something about a B. Anyway, Andrea, I mean, we got a touch more time. So do you have any? We can ask this to you because you are like the editor. But do you have any more thoughts, like in general, about the book and about your contributors that you just want to put a period on your segment with, or what?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I do want to say first off, I am very thankful to all the contributors because they were amazing through the process. And yeah, I'm really glad they stuck it out with us, did all of this because I feel like trying to do COVID and trying to do this book at the same time, maybe not my best idea. So thanks to them. But yeah, I think this book is really like I feel like it's the beginning of a conversation, and I want there to be a second book. Hopefully somebody else will be the editor of it. But I want that to happen, right? I want people to read this and say like, no, I think everything they said is wrong, and come back at it. So yeah, I want there to be more discussion about this, and I want folklorists to kind of stake their claim in this because conspiracy theories are folklore, right? They shouldn't just belong to other disciplines. They're very much what we do. And I think we need to like get out there and put our stink all over it. And be like, this is ours too, and make them cite us and make them recognize what we're doing here and that we're doing it well. And I think a lot of our contributors did a really great job, and I'm very proud of them.
Excellent. That's so great to hear. And this is I said at the top of the show, a book I wish existed 10 years ago, and I'm glad it exists now. Even and then it's kind of weird saying that, like I'm glad this book about dark topics that have like bored holes through people's brains exists, but I'm glad we're studying is what I mean to say.
Yeah.
Final question, and this is from your bestie in chat of Vulgar Art. What's your opinion about vegetables?
Opinion about vegetables?
Yeah, that's what he said.
Ian knows I hate vegetables. Ian knows this about me. I am a child when it comes to eating, and I do not like to eat my vegetables. So thanks, Ian. Thanks.
That's great. My girlfriend is the same way. If it's a leaf, she won't touch it. If it's like a sauce, like basil, no, pesto, yes. It's the leafiness.
Oh,
Yeah, you know what I
interesting.
mean?
It's the
Yeah.
leafiness of it. Yeah. My selective vegetables are bizarre that I like. Like I like asparagus, which I feel like is not an entry level vegetable.
That is
no,
Oh,
it's
interesting.
not.
Yeah, but I like that one, and yeah,
Dang.
and I like edamame, and like I feel like that's also not an entry level vegetable,
It's a
but
lot of labor.
it's a lot
Popping
of
them
labor.
things out,
Yeah, yeah, it is.
Andrea, thank you so much for coming on.
Hey.
Coming on this special roundtable. Thank you for organizing it, which you were a
Yeah,
huge
of
help getting our panelists together. And once again, returning champion, returning guest, fan favorite. Thank you for coming back on. And we're gonna have to break out Pathologic 2 with you so you can keep having Russian plague adventures.
Yeah,
It was
I'm
on
in. I
sale
wanna see
recently.
it.
I'm gonna get that in case Andrea's around.
I'll do it. You
Yeah.
guys can make me talk about vaccines again. I will do it for you. For you
Great.
guys.
Thank you so much, Andrea.
Happy to do it.